All right, coming off week one, the Chicago Bears demoralized by the Green Bay Packers. But the highlight of this game had to be Justin Fields' performance. He struggled in this one. The Packers pass rush made it a long day for him, and it didn't help on the other side that Jordan Love was putting on the points. Kyle Ledbetter, season's young, but is this a bump in the road for the Chicago Bears? Is the Fields hype train coming off the rails? What do you think? Are they good?
Well, personally, my biggest takeaway from the game was not Justin Fields' struggles. It was Jordan Love balling out. No Christian Watson, but he balled out. So I just want to shout out him. Shout out Romeo Dubes, 2 touchdowns in the game. He is awesome. He's going to have a lot of good fantasy football points this year. So Green Bay Packers, yes, good on them. Okay, now let's get to the Justin Fields. I wanted to do my 30 seconds of praise the Packers before we get to the Chicago Bears side of this. So Justin Fields had a really rough game. Bears defense had an awful game. I mean, the Packers scored a touchdown on like the most basic wheel route to Aaron Jones. Like most college teams know how to cover wheel routes better than the Bears defense trying to cover that basic ass wheel route that Aaron Jones ran and went untouched for a 50-yard touchdown. So defense struggled for the Bears. Offense was ineffective. Justin Fields had, again, really low completion percentage. First instinct was to run, which isn't a bad thing when you're the super athlete that Justin Fields is, but it doesn't quell the concerns that people had from last year, which was, hey, your completion percentage was almost in the 50s. That's like worse than rookie year Mitchell Trubisky. So I understand the concerns on that respect. I've been someone who says Justin Fields is so skilled and gifted as a quarterback physically and with his running ability that he doesn't have to be a top of the league passer like Lamar Jackson was during his MVP season, where he led the league in touchdown passes, had one of the best touchdown interception ratios in the NFL. He doesn't have to be that. He just has to be a little bit better than he was last season. He could even be below average in a lot of the completion percentage statistics and still be a good quarterback. As long as the passes are falling on the ground instead of into the arms of the other team, then you'll be okay. But that first game didn't do a lot to quell the concerns around the team. In terms of your question about, is the Fields hype train falling off the rails, I'm going to refrain from doing the one game sample size overreaction thing, as much as it's fun to do that with things that I'm right about. When it's things that go against what my beliefs are, I'm going to pause on the overreaction after one game, because I still believe Justin Fields is going to be an absolute marvel this season for the Bears.
Now, I think Bears fans or people that follow the Bears would say that it's not just one game, it's a sample size of 3 years now. And it's one game with what you would consider better targets. You have DJ Moore out there. You have Chase Claypool to start the season. You still have Darnell Mooney. It's your second year in the offense, too, when you add in Luke Getsy is back with them. Now, a lot of people are calling out Getsy's play calling, saying that it didn't seem like he was putting a lot of faith in Justin Fields. They didn't air the ball out at any point. There wasn't a lot of deep balls in this one. It was a lot of dink and dunk screen passes for the Bears in this offense. So they ran the most vanilla offense that you can imagine against this Green Bay Packers. And I don't know how good the offensive line is going to be for the Bears throughout the season. I know they drafted someone in the first round because they were trying to make improvements to this line. But it was hard to tell because the Packers were all over Fields throughout this game, sacking him multiple times, making it hell for him. And maybe that could be the Packers defense is going to be good this year. Maybe it's early in the year, so maybe the Packers defense is really good, and that should be something that we monitor throughout the year. It's less of an indictment on the Bears and how good the Packers could be. But for Fields, one of the concerns you mentioned, so it's not just that his first instinct is run, it's also him holding onto the ball too long. That's been a thing that's been held against Fields for a while. And sometimes you could do your offensive line a disservice by holding onto the ball too long and taking a sack or taking more sacks than you need to. We talked about this for years with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson kept saying, oh, I'm tired of getting sacked all the time. I'm tired of getting beat up, eaten alive out there. But also, Russell Wilson, you're holding on to the ball too long. You're out there trying to scramble. You're trying to make stuff happen, which is admirable when it works out. But when it doesn't and you end up on the ground or end up fumbling the ball or something, then that's when people kind of start breathing down your neck. And that's what's happening to Justin Fields. So maybe there's some unfair criticism, but there is some rightful criticism. And if he's going to dispel the one and run quarterback tag that's been thrown on him, he's going to need a more significant passing outing here in the first few weeks.
to the point about the sacks. So sacks are a quarterback stat in the sense that about 60 to 70% of the blame for a sack falls on a quarterback. It's not always on the quarterback, but sacks are a quarterback stat. And especially in the modern NFL of spread offenses and quarterbacks running design plays out of the pocket and roaming to their left and right and bootlegs and waggles. Like in the modern spread offense of the NFL, sacks are even more increasingly on the quarterback. I know on the Thursday night game to kick off the season, Chris Collinsworth was doing the AWS stat thing and brought up the fact that like on 65% of plays, Mahomes was under pressure, took 0 sacks, and had a completion percentage that would have been in the top, 2 in the league on pressures in the league, despite the fact he was being pressured on like 65% of plays. So yeah, Mahomes is one of the best in the NFL at never taking a sack. And that is because sacks are 60 to 70% on the quarterback. And that is the knock that people had for years with Russell Wilson. It's the knock people had with Watson previously. It's the knock that people have with Justin Fields, is the holding the ball and taking sacks thing. And that's something that's going to probably get corrected with stronger offensive line play. And it's an easy behavior to correct. I mean, it's not easy in the sense that like there's a lot going on in an NFL game. And sometimes Kirk Cousins just has the knack where he checks down because it's the natural instinct when push comes to shove. So like in some of those cases, it's not easy to change, but it's not the most impossible thing. Like correcting the behavior of holding too long is not the most impossible thing to change from a quarterback's play. And while people, in terms of the running thing, like we want Justin Fields to run the football. He is the great benefit for the Bears going forward is that he is their best quarterback and their best running back. He showed that in this game where Justin Fields averaged 6.6 yards per carry, running the ball 9 times. The rest of the Bears offense ran the ball 19 times, had 61 total rushing yards compared to the 59 for Justin Fields in 9 carries. The team's running backs averaged 3.1 yards per carry on 19 carries. Running game was completely ineffective for the Bears. Their number 1 running back, Khalil Herbert, is not looking much like a number 1 running back because they lost David Montgomery and didn't really do much to address that.
Well, I would counter the running game being down just because when you fall behind in games, it's hard to really establish a running game. And that's what happened to the Bears in this game.
Yeah. And the Bears are not skilled enough to be able to move the football any way they want to when they get down in a game. And that's the reason I would feel like looking at somehow this game was actually more of a blowout than the scoreboard suggested, because it was like 38-13 and the Bears scored a garbage time score at the end of the game. But this game was closer than the final score would resemble it being. Like the Bears didn't play good at all. The Packers played very good, but it wasn't like the Bears, it felt like, got totally blown out of the building and were totally outclassed.
Halftime was a game changer for sure, because this game, I believe it was within 1 touchdown at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, no, they went in the locker rooms, and I mentioned this was going to be a big season for LaFleur. First season without Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. What kind of halftime adjustments are going to be made? Matt Eberflus, I don't know if he made the right adjustments or if he has a problem with Luke Getsy's play calling, which it seemed like there was a little bit of a problem with it, the fact that they weren't throwing the ball downfield. Then he, as the head coach, has to step in and make it more a point of emphasis, especially when, again, you trade a first-round pick to get DJ Moore, and you only target him like 2 to 3 times. That can't be the case in games moving forward. They got to fix that. DJ Moore needs to be more involved in this offense because he can, and it has been a number 1 wide receiver in the past. So I don't want to downplay DJ Moore as a top-end wide receiving talent. And Chase Claypool, for all his faults too, also, even though he played pretty bad in this game, Chase Claypool has also been a wide receiver 1 on a team that was competing for a playoff spot as of just a couple years ago. This team does have talent offensively. I don't want to diminish their skill position players. It's just going to be on Justin Fields, and it's going to be on Getsy to get them more involved. Cole Kmet, heck, even as a tight end, is a good athlete and certainly one that you would like to have as your tight end.
Chase Claypool, 0 catches, 0 yards in that game on Sunday. And look, I know that the focus of this video is on Justin Fields, and I know the focus of this video is on the Bears offense and what it's going to look like this year. My biggest takeaway with the Bears offense was just that it looked mid. It wasn't that the Bears offense was awful. It was just pretty average. I mean, Justin Fields, as we mentioned before, completed just over 60% of his passes, which again is about Justin Fields' average for, I think this was the 25th or 26th start of Justin Fields' career. So it's about the average for his career. Finished with a passer rating of 78.2, which is not good when you factor in the fact that he had 9 carries for 59 yards and ended up losing a fumble as well as part of the game. But like when you factor that in, it looks a little bit better. The biggest takeaway for me was just Packers offense carved the Bears defense up, just carved up the Bears defense. And the Packers offense looked incredibly impressive. Jordan Love averaged 16.2 yards per completion. And if you do the thing that I do, where you take away the biggest completion of the game and you take away the smallest completion of the game to kind of get a more representable average, he still averaged 14.7 yards per completion.
Well, I mean, it's easy to do that when you've only been pressured 6 times in the game. The Bears pass rush was doing nothing to make Jordan Love look uncomfortable back there. In fact, they only had a 10% pressure rate. He was more than comfortable there. Jordan Love could have had a sandwich, a picnic, and just laid out on the beach waiting for the Bears pass rush to get there and then throw a touchdown pass on them.
Carved up the Bears defense, just carved him up. And that was the biggest takeaway for me, was how impressed I was with Jordan Love and how impressed I was with the Packers offense. And the Packers defense did great things too. They forced 2 turnovers on Justin Fields. One of them, I think, did they have a pick 6 in the game? I want to say that they had either a pick that led to an immediate score or was like right at the goal line or something like that. But they had 2 turnovers on Justin Fields. Defense played well. Bears scored a garbage time touchdown to make it look a little bit better. But like you said, they got down in the third quarter and didn't have much they could do with it. But it was 10-6 at halftime. Like, it was both teams trying to establish their tempo on the game, led to a lot of field goals instead of touchdowns. Mistake-free football. It was just the second half that things got a little bit chaotic, and judging an entire team season on one half of football is always a dangerous game, especially the first half of a football season. But I understand it from a Bears standpoint. They got outscored essentially 28-7 in the second half of that game. I know they scored a garbage time touchdown, but essentially 28-7.
Well, I think for the Bears, it just all boils down to this. In the offseason, we're talking about Justin Fields making this 3rd-year leap. We're talking about him coming into the season and being the guy. I'll go back to Shannon Sharp's ranking that we talked about a couple weeks ago that had him as the number 1 quarterback in the NFC. And the fact that even with that said, they still went on to lose their 9th straight game to the Packers. The fact that this is supposed to be their year. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Justin Fields, 3rd-year breakout. And we're still losing again to this Packers, and not just losing again, getting our ass kicked. And time will tell if Jordan Love is going to be the true heir apparent to Rodgers in Green Bay. But the fact that in week 1, at least, the Bears made him look like that is not a good sign for the future to come. Luckily, if you're the Bears, well, the Lions obviously got a big week 1 win for sure against the Chiefs. The Vikings, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're still in this, like, if you can, like, rebound next week, which the Bears in week 2, let's see who they got. Who do the Bears have in week 2 to right the ship? The Buccaneers. Okay, well, hey, if you beat the Buccaneers, your division opponent, the Minnesota Viking, they couldn't beat the Buccaneers. So go 1-1, fix yourself, correct yourself, and maybe you can feel a little bit better. But again, it's just who you lost to, I think, hurts for the Bears the most.
They need that get right game, because you know who they play in week 3 at Arrowhead against Kansas City. So they are going to get the brakes beat off them by Kansas City in week 3. But then after that, it gets a little bit better. You got Broncos at home. Then you play the Commandos, who, you know, had a worse offense than you. So at least that's a little bit of a silver lining. And then you get to play home game against that team you just mentioned, those dreaded Minnesota Vikings, a game that you're going to have to win one of these division games at some point this season if you don't want to finish 4th. They're already 0-1.
Yeah.
Maybe Minnesota at home is that get right game for you.
So what I would say, you reading off those first 5 games, 3-2 is still attainable. Even if we write in pen, write in Sharpie that they'll lose to the Chiefs, they still can beat the Buccaneers. They still can beat the Commanders. They still can beat the Minnesota Vikings, which I think is almost a must win just to look good in division for them. So 3-2 is still attainable. And I think that should be the goal here in these first 5 games, especially because you dropped this one against a Packers team that was supposed to be worse for the wear. And again, credit to the Packers. Their defense looked good. Their offensive line looked really good, and that helped Jordan Love look really good. But again, the Bears, they have some work to do. They got to clean up some play calling, and they got to get some sort of pass rush if they're going to win against any of these teams moving forward.